I was 34 when my life crumbled around me in ways I never thought possible. The house I grew up in became mine after my father passed away 3 years ago. He always taught me about responsibility and hard work. When my mom and her new husband Warren needed a place to stay with his 3 teenage kids, I opened my doors hoping to bring our family closer. I never imagined my own mother would betray me so completely. If you are watching this from a place where family has let you down too, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Trust me, what happened next is something you will want to hear. Growing up in that 4-bedroom colonial in Lakewood was the foundation of who I am today. My father worked as an engineer, putting in 60-hour weeks to provide for us while teaching me the value of honest work. Every weekend we would tackle some home improvement project together. Those memories became even more precious when he died unexpectedly from a heart attack 3 years ago. The house became mine, through his will. Mom had already moved to an apartment downtown after their amicable divorce 5 years earlier. Though losing Dad was devastating, having the home where we created so many memories brought me comfort during that difficult time. My mother remarried about 2 years ago. Warren came into her life through a church social group, and their relationship progressed quickly. 6 months after meeting, they were married in a small ceremony. I tried to be supportive, despite my reservations about how little we knew about him. Warren had 3 children from his previous marriage: Justin, who was 17, Alyssa, who was 15, and Tyler, who was 13. I made genuine efforts to welcome my new stepfamily. When Mom introduced us, I took everyone out for dinner and tried to find common ground with the kids. Justin seemed perpetually bored. Alyssa was glued to her phone, and Tyler at least feigned interest when I mentioned video games. Warren was charming and attentive that night, thanking me repeatedly for making an effort with his kids. My own life was stable. At 34, I had built a solid career as a software engineer working remotely for a tech company based in Seattle. I had transformed the basement into a home office that gave me the space I needed to focus. Meanwhile, Warren had a spotty employment history that Mom would gently defend, saying he was between opportunities or exploring new directions. From what I gathered, he had bounced between sales positions, never staying anywhere longer than a year. The call came on a Tuesday evening. I was wrapping up a project when my phone lit up with Mom's picture. "Donovan, I do not know what to do," she said, her voice shaking with tears. "Warren lost his position at the insurance company, and we cannot make rent this month. The landlord is threatening eviction." My heart sank. I could hear the desperation in her voice. "What about your savings?" I asked, knowing Mom had always been careful with money. "We had to use it all when Warren was between jobs last fall," she admitted. "He has some promising leads, but nothing solid yet." I took a deep breath, weighing my options. The house had 4 bedrooms, my room, my office, and 2 spare rooms we had used for storage. "Maybe you could stay with me for a few months," I offered cautiously. "Just until Warren finds something stable and you can get back on your feet." The relief in her voice was palpable. "Oh, Donovan, that would be such a blessing. We promise it will just be temporary. Warren is amazing at landing on his feet." We discussed logistics and set some ground rules. They would contribute to utilities and help with household chores. Warren got on the phone and expressed his profound gratitude, promising they would respect my space and be out of my hair as soon as possible. "You are saving us, man. I will not forget this," he said with such sincerity that I believed him. The next 2 weeks were a flurry of activity as I prepared the house for 5 new residents. I cleared out the spare rooms, purchased new beds, and even painted the walls colors the teenagers had requested. I wanted them to feel welcome, to see that I was making an effort. The day they moved in started well. Everyone pitched in, unloading the moving truck Warren had borrowed from a friend. We ordered pizza and sat around the dining room table that night, laughing and sharing stories. Mom looked happier than I had seen her in months, relief evident in her relaxed shoulders and easy smile. To new beginnings, Warren toasted, raising his glass of soda. And to Donovan, the most generous stepson a man could ask for. For the first few weeks, the arrangement seemed promising. We established a dinner rotation where everyone took turns cooking. The kids enrolled in the local schools, and Warren spent his days allegedly sending out resumes and taking calls. I continued my work routine, grateful that my basement office gave me some separation. But subtle shifts began occurring as Warren and his children became more comfortable. The first red flag appeared when I came home from a grocery run to find Tyler playing on my gaming PC without permission. The system had cost me over $3,000, and he had no business touching it. "Tyler, buddy, that is my personal computer," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "You need to ask before using my things." He rolled his eyes dramatically but got up from my chair. "Whatever. It is not like you were using it right now anyway." When I brought this up to Warren later, he waved it off. Kids these days do not really understand personal boundaries with technology. He meant no harm. Mom stood uncomfortably to the side, finally saying Tyler should have asked permission first, but her tone lacked conviction. That incident marked the beginning of a pattern. Boundaries were established, then promptly ignored, with Warren dismissing each transgression as minor or unintentional. I began noticing Mom deferring to Warren more and more, even on matters concerning my home. One evening, when Warren suggested rearranging the living room furniture that had been positioned the same way since my father was alive, Mom quickly agreed it was a great idea to freshen up the space. When I objected, the look of disappointment on her face made my stomach twist. "It is just furniture, Donovan," she said quietly. "Sometimes change is good." I realized then that the ground beneath me was shifting. This house, my sanctuary and connection to my father, was gradually being claimed by others. And somehow, I was being cast as unreasonable for wanting to preserve what was mine. By the 3-month mark of our living arrangement, what had started as minor irritations had evolved into daily affronts. The disrespect had become so commonplace that I felt like a stranger in my own home. Justin, the oldest at 17, had developed a particularly entitled attitude. One Saturday morning, I woke up planning to meet friends for breakfast, only to discover my car was missing from the driveway. Panicked, I was about to call the police when Justin casually strolled in through the front door, my car keys dangling from his finger. "Where have you been with my car?" I demanded, fury and relief competing for dominance. He shrugged. "Just took Kaylee for breakfast." "No big deal. No big deal. You took my car without permission. You do not even have a license, just a permit." Warren appeared from the kitchen, coffee mug in hand. "Now, Donovan, let us dial it back." He should have asked, sure, but he brought it back safely. Well, mostly safely. Mostly, I pushed past him to look out the window and saw a sizable dent in my passenger side door. "Just a little fender bender in the diner parking lot," Justin said dismissively. "Some old lady backed into me." My blood pressure soared. "Did you get her insurance information?" Justin looked at me like I was speaking another language. "Why would I do that? It is just a dent." Warren placed a hand on my shoulder. "We will take care of it." "Justin will work it off, right, son?" Justin rolled his eyes but nodded before disappearing upstairs. Neither the payment nor the repair ever materialized. Alyssa, the 15-year-old middle child, had her own ways of boundary stomping. Despite knowing I had important video conferences for work, she would invite friends over and blast music directly above my office. When I would ask them to lower the volume, I would be met with dramatic sighs and whispers of, "He is so uptight, just loud enough for me to hear." One particularly important meeting with Japanese clients was completely derailed by what sounded like a herd of elephants overhead, punctuated by shrieks of teenage laughter. After apologizing profusely to my colleagues, I stormed upstairs to find Alyssa and 4 friends, jumping from bed to chair to floor in some kind of improvised game. "I am on an important call," I said through gritted teeth. "You need to stop this right now." "We are just having fun," Alyssa pouted. "You are always working." "It is not our fault your office is underneath my bedroom." When I brought this up at dinner, Warren suggested I adjust my work schedule around the kids' activities, as if my career was some hobby I could rearrange at will. But perhaps the most painful incident involved Tyler, the 13-year-old. My father and I had built a detailed model airplane together during his final year. It was a P-51 Mustang with a 3-foot wingspan that sat proudly on a shelf in my bedroom. One day I came home to find it shattered on the floor, pieces scattered everywhere. Tyler was sitting on my bed playing with his tablet. "It fell," he said without looking up. The careful painting, the tiny decals, the hours of father-son bonding, all destroyed. The model had been positioned securely in the middle of a deep shelf. It could not have fallen without help. "Why were you in my room?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. He shrugged. "Looking for chargers." When I confronted Warren, he had the audacity to suggest that these things happen, and that perhaps I should not keep fragile items out if they mean so much. My mother, standing behind him, said nothing. Her silence, a betrayal that cut deeper than any word could have. The financial arrangement we had agreed upon was equally disregarded. Warren consistently forgot to contribute to utilities despite regular reminders. Grocery bills tripled with 3 teenagers in the house, yet no additional money was offered. When I would bring it up, Warren would pat his pockets and say, "Caught me at a bad time, buddy. Next week for sure." Next week never came. Through a mutual acquaintance, I discovered Warren had not been actively job hunting as he claimed. He had turned down 2 reasonable offers because the pay did not reflect his worth. Meanwhile, he was driving a new golf club set and had upgraded his phone. My mother, once practical and straightforward, now made endless excuses for Warren's financial irresponsibility. "He needs to wait for the right opportunity," she would say. "You do not understand the pressure he is under as a provider." The dynamic in the house had shifted dramatically. Family meals, once pleasant, became opportunities for Warren to dominate conversations and for his children to showcase their accomplishments while ignoring any of my contributions. If I mentioned a work success, Warren would quickly change the subject. I was becoming an outsider in my own home. One evening, coming up from my office for a glass of water, I overheard Warren speaking to his children in the living room. They had not heard me on the stairs. "This house will be a great investment for us," he was saying. "Your grandmother has convinced me this location is perfect, and once we are settled more permanently, we can make some real changes around here." Justin's voice followed. "When do we get Donovan to move out?" Warren's laugh sent chills down my spine. "Patience. These things take time. Your grandmother is coming around to seeing things our way." I retreated silently downstairs, my mind reeling. This had been their plan all along. Not a temporary stay while they got back on their feet, but a calculated takeover of my home with my mother as an unwitting or worse-willing accomplice. The isolation campaign was subtle but effective. Family events were planned during times I had mentioned being available, only for me to discover they had gone ahead without me. "We thought you were working" became a common excuse despite my clearly communicated schedule. Warren's children began spreading stories to extended family. When my aunt called to ask if I was really threatening to evict my own mother over a few household disagreements, I realized how distorted the narrative had become. Anxiety began to shadow me. I dreaded coming upstairs from my office. My home no longer felt like a sanctuary, but a battleground where I was constantly defending increasingly smaller territory. My friend Amanda became my lifeline during this time. Over coffee at her place, safely away from my home, I confided my growing concerns. "Donovan, you are being manipulated," she said plainly. "Warren is systematically turning your mother against you and trying to push you out of your own house. This is not normal family tension, this is calculated." I tried once to have an honest conversation with my mother. I caught her alone one morning and poured out my concerns, hoping to reach the woman who had raised me, who had always valued fairness and honesty. Her response left me cold. "Warren thinks you have never accepted them as family. He says you resent sharing your space and that you look down on them. Maybe if you tried harder to welcome them, things would improve." The woman who once saw through every childhood fib I told now believed Warren's distortions without question. I felt like I was losing her piece by piece, watching her transform into someone I barely recognized. After returning from a grueling week-long business trip to Chicago, all I wanted was a hot shower and some peace. Instead, I walked into what Warren called a family meeting in my living room. The timing was not coincidental. They had waited until I was exhausted and vulnerable. Warren sat in my father's old recliner, an intentional power move that was not lost on me. My mother perched nervously on the couch beside him. His 3 children were arranged around the room like a tribunal, faces serious and rehearsed. "We need to talk about the living situation," Warren began, his tone reasonable and measured. "The kids have some concerns they would like to share." Justin spoke first, his practiced speech delivered with just the right amount of emotion. "Donovan, we have been here for months now, but you still make us feel like guests, not family. You have all these rules and expectations, but you never consider what we need." Alyssa followed, tears glistening in her eyes that I was certain had been summoned on command. "Sometimes you get so angry about little things. It makes me scared to be around you. Last week when I used your coffee mug, you acted like I had committed a crime." What she conveniently omitted was that the coffee mug was a handcrafted piece my father had given me before he died. clearly displayed separately from the regular dishes, and that she had left it unwashed in her room for 3 days. Tyler, not to be outdone, added his own complaint. You keep your office locked all the time, even though it could be a game room for all of us. You are selfish with the space, even though there is plenty. Throughout these rehearsed grievances, Warren nodded supportively, occasionally placing a comforting hand on whoever was speaking, playing the role of concerned father perfectly. My mother sat silently, eyes downcast, a silent witness to this ambush. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. I understand living together can be challenging. I began carefully, but I need to clarify some things. This is my home that I have opened to you temporarily. I have specific rules because I have had repeated issues with my boundaries being disrespected. I went on to cite specific examples, keeping my tone calm but firm. The missing car, the destroyed model plane, the interrupted work, calls the financial agreements that had been ignored. As I spoke, I could see Warren's carefully constructed narrative beginning to crumble. He had not expected me to respond with specific, irrefutable incidents. His children, however, had been prepared for this possibility. Justin suddenly stood up, his face contorted with manufactured rage. You are such a control freak. Nothing is ever good enough for you. Alyssa joined in, her previous tears now weaponized. You hate us. You have always hated us. Tyler, following his siblings' lead, shouted, We cannot even breathe in this house without you complaining. The situation escalated rapidly, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of accusations. Warren made a show of trying to calm them, but his half-hearted, now kids, let us be respectful, did nothing to stem the tide of vitriol. Then Justin delivered the blow that still echoes in my mind. You are worthless. Nobody wants you here. This is our house now. The room fell silent after his declaration, as if everyone was holding their breath to see how I would respond. I looked to my mother, expecting, hoping that she would finally speak up, defend me against this brutal attack in my own home. Her silence stretched for what felt like eternity before Warren placed his hand on hers and spoke. Donovan, I think what the kids are trying to say, poorly perhaps, is that there is a lot of tension in this house. We need to find a way to coexist peacefully. Coexist, I repeated, my voice hollow. This is my house. I have opened it to you out of kindness, and this is how I am repaid, with disrespect and insults. Finally, my mother spoke, and her words shattered something fundamental between us. Donovan, she said softly, not meeting my eyes, maybe it would be better if you moved out for a while, just until things cool down. Warren and I could cover the mortgage. You could get an apartment, have some space of your own, without all these conflicts. I stared at her in disbelief. You want me to move out of my own house? The house Dad left to me, Warren interjected smoothly. Just temporarily, for the sake of harmony. The kids are settled in school now, and uprooting them would be difficult. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This had been the plan all along. Move in, push me out, take over. And my own mother was complicit. No, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. I will not be leaving my home. What followed was an onslaught I could never have prepared for. All pretense of civility vanished as Warren and his children launched a coordinated attack. You are selfish. You never wanted us here. You think you are better than everyone. You are just like your father, cold and unfeeling. That last barb from my mother no less struck the deepest wound. My father had been nothing but loving and supportive. This revisionist history was the final betrayal. As the verbal assault continued, I felt something break inside me. Without another word, I grabbed my keys and laptop and walked out, the sound of their continued tirade following me down the driveway. I spent that night in my car parked outside Amanda's apartment complex, too numb to even call and ask if I could come in. The next morning, red-eyed and disoriented, I knocked on her door. They want me out, was all I could say when she opened the door. My own mother wants me to leave my house so her new husband and his kids can have it. Amanda, bless her, did not ask questions. She simply pulled me into a hug and said, You are staying with me until we figure this out. For a full week, I barely functioned. I called in sick to work for the first time in years, unable to focus on code while my life was imploding. Amanda's guest room became my refuge as I tried to process the magnitude of my mother's betrayal. You need to talk to a lawyer, Amanda insisted after watching me stare blankly at the wall for hours. This is your house, Donovan. Legally, you have rights. She connected me with her friend Brian, a real estate attorney who agreed to meet us for coffee the next day. His assessment was clear and unambiguous. The house is in your name, he confirmed after reviewing my documentation. You inherited it legally from your father. They have established tenancy by living there, but you are well within your rights to evict them with proper notice. Evict my own mother. The words felt foreign on my tongue. Brian's expression was sympathetic but firm. From what you have described, they are attempting to manipulate you out of your property. Legally and ethically, you are justified in protecting what is yours. That afternoon, while scrolling mindlessly through social media trying to distract myself, I came across a post from Alyssa that knocked the wind out of me. It was a photo of my living room completely rearranged with my father's belongings nowhere in sight. The caption read, "Finally making this place livable number. New beginnings number, family home." The comment section was filled with congratulations, including one from Warren. "Great job, princess. This place is really coming together as OURS." Something hardened in me then, a resolve that cut through the fog of hurt and betrayal. This was not just about disrespect anymore. This was a calculated takeover of my inheritance, my memories, my home. Amanda watched the transformation happen in real time. "There he is," she said quietly. I was wondering when the real Donovan would come back. With Brian's guidance, I spent the next 2 days formulating a plan. We prepared eviction notices, documented the numerous violations of our verbal agreement, and even arranged for a law enforcement officer to accompany me back to my house. A precaution Brian strongly advised, given the hostility I had experienced. When I pulled into my driveway with a police cruiser behind me, the front door opened immediately. Warren appeared, his face, a mask of concern that did not reach his eyes. "Donovan, we have been so worried. Your mother has been beside herself." He faltered when he noticed the officer. "What is going on here?" "Official business," the officer stated calmly. "Mr. Blake has requested assistance while he serves these notices." I walked past Warren into my own home, noticing immediately how much had changed in just 1 week. Family photos had been removed, furniture rearranged, walls repainted. My father's presence had been systematically erased. My mother emerged from the kitchen, her expression shifting from relief to confusion to fear as she registered the officer's presence and the documents in my hand. "Donovan, what is this?" she asked, her voice small. "Eviction notices," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "You have 30 days to find new accommodation." Warren's mask of concern transformed instantly into rage. "You cannot do this. We are family. This is our home now." "This is my home," I corrected, meeting his gaze without flinching. "I inherited it legally from my father. I allowed you to stay temporarily out of kindness, an arrangement you have systematically abused. You would put your own mother on the street." Warren appealed to emotion, his voice rising dramatically. "What kind of son does that?" "The kind who was told by his mother that he should move out of his own house," I replied evenly. "The kind who was called worthless in his own living room. The kind who has finally recognized manipulation for what it is." My mother began to cry great heaving sobs that would have broken me a week ago. Now I recognized them as part of the same manipulative pattern. Officer Warren tried a different approach. "Surely this cannot be legal. We have established residence here." "I am familiar with the tenancy laws, sir," the officer replied professionally. "Mr. Blake is the legal owner and has the right to terminate your tenancy with proper notice, which he is providing today. You have 30 days to vacate as required by law." The reality of the situation finally seemed to dawn on Warren as his face drained of color. His plan had backfired spectacularly. The teenagers appeared on the stairs, drawn by the commotion. Their expressions of smug superiority faltered when they saw the officer and the papers in my hand. "What is happening?" Justin demanded. "We are moving," Warren said tightly. "Start packing." That month was one of the most tense of my entire life. I moved back into my bedroom, installing a new lock on the door. Warren and my mother alternated between icy silence and desperate appeals to my sense of family obligation. The children, taking cues from their father, vacillated between hostility and awkward attempts at friendliness, suddenly remembering to ask permission before using my things. 3 days before their deadline to leave, my mother came to me alone. She sat at the kitchen table where we had shared thousands of meals over the years, her hands cradling a mug of tea like a lifeline. "I do not understand how we got here," she said, her voice thin with emotion. "How did everything go so wrong, Donovan?" I considered her question carefully before answering. "We got here because you chose Warren over me. Because you were willing to take my home from me, to please him. Because when his children called me worthless, you said nothing." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I love you. You know I do. Love without respect is not enough, Mom. I needed you to stand up for me to recognize what was happening. Instead, you became part of it." She reached across the table for my hand, but I did not extend it. "Can we fix this? Can you forgive me?" "Forgiveness might come with time," I told her honestly, "but trust will take much longer. And it cannot start until you recognize what you have done and take responsibility for your choices." She left without making any such acknowledgement, and 3 days later they were gone. The house felt cavernous and eerily quiet in their absence. Some of my belongings had disappeared, others were damaged, but the structure itself remained. The process of reclaiming my space was both physical and emotional. I repainted walls, replaced furniture, and systematically cleansed every trace of their presence. Amanda helped, spending weekends with me sorting through rooms and listening as I processed my grief and anger. "You did the right thing," she assured me repeatedly. "They were taking advantage of your kindness and manipulating your emotions." I found a therapist who specialized in family trauma, which proved invaluable in navigating the complex emotions of essentially losing my mother while she was still alive. I connected with my father's side of the family, rebuilding relationships that had fallen by the wayside during Warren's campaign to isolate me. 6 months after the eviction, my mother reached out again. This time her message was different. "I have left Warren," she wrote in an email. "I have been doing therapy and beginning to understand how I allowed myself to be manipulated and how I failed you as a mother. I do not expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I see the truth now." We met for coffee at a neutral location. The woman across from me looked older, sadder, but there was a clarity in her eyes that had been missing for years. "He never loved me," she admitted. "I was a means to an end, a way to secure stability for him and his children. I was so afraid of being alone after your father died that I ignored every red flag. We have begun the slow, careful process of rebuilding our relationship. Trust returns in microscopic increments, but it is returning. She has respected my boundaries and shown genuine remorse, not just through words but consistent actions. The lessons from this painful chapter have been transformative. I learned that boundaries are not just preferences, but essential protections. I discovered that manipulation often comes cloaked in the language of family obligation and emotional appeals. Most importantly, I realized that my worth is not determined by others' treatment of me, but by my own self-respect and the courage to stand firm in the face of injustice. If you have faced similar battles with family who have tried to take advantage of your kindness or manipulate your emotions, know that setting boundaries is not selfish. It is essential. Have you ever had to stand up to family for your own well-being? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of healing and reclaiming personal power. Remember that your worth is never determined by those who try to diminish you. Thank you for listening, and I hope my story helps you stand firm in your own truth.